All right, great. Well, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you all are in the world. My name is Roux Johnson, and I'm here on behalf of the Cannabis Certification Council. And I'm here with my good friend and a change maker, a real, I would say, trailblazer and an icon in the cannabis space, Shanita Penny. How are you, Shanita?
I am well. Thank you for having me. It's so good to see you.
It's so good to see you too. And thank you for being here because I know that your schedule is crazy because I've been like seeing you quoted in the news and like, all, I know that you have.
I'm not too busy for you.
Well, thank you. And that honestly just brings me real and true joy because I want to get all into all the things you're working on and what we can expect in the cannabis industry from an equity lens and just, what's coming down the pipeline. Like federal legalization is all the talk. It looks like they're bringing safe banking back, which, really is
Real time. Right now, today.
Yes, and that's really like I feel like where a lot of people might have heard and seen a lot of national news about you was during the safe banking testimonials and stuff like that too. So I want to get into all of that, and I know I'm personally having a morning smoke. I don't know if you're already prepared to do the same, but
this is my midday sesh.
Yes, good. Yeah, I'm still on
fit perfectly into my day. Just so you know, I will be ready for the second half after this.
So perfect. Yes, I figured that would, kind of give us a conversive vibe. But first and foremost, so the reason why you and I are having this conversation is because I am, in a lot of ways, a product of the work that you have done, both in marrying music and cannabis, but also being able to be like a Black woman in this space, talking about what we can do to be impactful for more minority ownership. And more minority inclusion, and diversity and inclusion in the cannabis space. We met when you were the president of the Minority Cannabis Business Association, and you, even prior to that, have just gone on to create so much like space and opportunity for us. So give us and all the people who are not lucky enough to know you as well as I do an overview of who and what you are.
I actually met you before that. Okay. I got into the space and I was based in Maryland. I was tearing up the East Coast, but I realized, very quickly that I needed to be in an active market. I needed to immerse myself in the culture. And I moved to Denver and I'd heard about you and I finally like fell up on you one day and was just like, hey, I'm Shanita. And you were like, we're going to be friends. Just wait.
Yes, 100%.
But in that same time, I joined MCBA and was very quickly invited to the board and led the organization for over 2 years. And, it was just getting into the business of cannabis that allowed me to really see just how involved we need to be in policy. So I'm thankful for like the cannabis work, introducing me to policy influencing, policy making. But more importantly, it wasn't about cannabis. It was like, wow, so we really can't break these systemic barriers without understanding policy. Right. So we're talking about something very important today, which is safe banking. Yeah. And for folks that have been in this industry, just getting by without having a bank account, without having access, when the pandemic hit, there was no way you were going to be able to leverage something like the pandemic paycheck program, or the paycheck protection program, if you didn't have an existing banking relationship. So these were the things that I learned very early on as I was, looking at paying $4,500 a month for a bank account that barely allowed me to do anything besides bring cash in, pay payroll, and that's really it. So it's critical that we get behind this safe banking legislation for everyone in this industry and for the people who want to become involved in the future. So the policy piece was just a no-brainer, and I'm thankful for the people who had the privilege of spending their career from undergrad on influencing policy, because when I met them, it was about leveraging my lived experiences, my corporate experiences, me, to actually figure out how to go at the policy thing. So it's like they woke up a giant talking to me about policy.
And I think when people hear policy, it feels kind of like heady, it makes people feel like you're just reading pages and pages of legislation, which, like, many people are. But I think for kind of the average person who doesn't have the language or doesn't have the time and experience, what is it that we need to know about safe banking? And we'll talk about other federal policies and stuff too, but I think, because like you said, that's like literally going down. It's so important that people have like a strong understanding. So what is like the crash course in safe banking?
So because cannabis is federally illegal, these state licensed businesses, so they're compliant on every level in the state, are not allowed to leverage like the banking um, activity that touches federal systems. So when you think about credit card processing, when you think about, lending, those things are not available to us. So it's important for us to get this legislation, this piece of legislation. It is not comprehensive. It does not legalize cannabis. We still have an uphill battle as it relates to that, especially for us. But what this does is allow the businesses that are compliant at the state level to have access to a bank account in the same way that any other business would. And it also provides protection for, bankers and lawyers and other people who are doing business with the cannabis industry. Mm-hmm. So it's an important first step. Does it get us everything? No. Is the banking system in and of itself fair to all people in this country? Absolutely not. Right. But we have a lens on equity. We have a voice. And what's important is that we say, yes, banking, but let's also look at how disproportionate, right, access in general is, the interest rates that are levied on this particular group as opposed to this group. And let's get some data, and let's look at how we don't perpetuate that in the cannabis industry, right? Be better than the banking industry, in and of itself. Mm-hmm, so that's what's important to us right now. Tell your legislators that we want this, because again, this is a game changer. And when people say, well, why would you want that? And the industry isn't equitable yet. Well, the industry certainly doesn't become more equitable without it.
Yes, exactly. So there's a question in the chat, which I'll grab, but I also wanted to ask, like, when we think of barriers to access, obviously banking is a huge part of that. And I think access to capital is a huge part of that. How does that become, well, I guess on a federal level, does equity still exist at the federal level? Mm. And the question is, what are the equity lenses, if any, with the banking legislation? I think that's kind of a continual question.
So the banking language does not, there is no equity language. What it does commit to is the government's accountability office doing a report to say, these demographics have accounts, these demographics have borrowed, they've had successful payback rates, they've grown their businesses. We need to fully understand what the impact of this is going to be for everyone. It is one thing to get this done, to get safe banking, and then only a handful of people continue to thrive or position themselves to sustain even in the industry. What we need to make sure is that we are equitably, right, providing access to banking.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Absolutely. So tell me about Budding Solutions, because I feel like that's your baby, right? That's your brainchild. That's what gets you to this level, and like in these places with all of these folks, and really affecting change.
Yeah, Budding Solutions. We're going into, 6 years formally, 8 years of trying to figure it out and deciding that I'm gonna jump out there, because it's tough. Yeah. When you have grown up and everybody that loves you and wants the best for you has instilled, go get a job, get a 401k, get a pension if you can. That was a big thing in my family because everybody works for the government.
Yeah.
It's hard. And so, going into this year, I'm excited. I've come full circle. When I first started out in Maryland, working on applications for licenses, coming out of the Maryland round, I was 0 for 2. Mm-hmm. You know, neither client won a license, but I learned so much and was able to apply that in the Pennsylvania process, and apply that and share that with everybody that was a part of MCBA. And every time I went on a stage and in a room and talked about navigating the process, it was from a place of I've done this.
Yes.
And I've done it without a program in place, right? So then getting to Pennsylvania and being 2 for 2, right? And now being a co-founder of a licensed cannabis business, building it from the ground up. I mean, clearing trees, right?
Yeah.
All of the challenges that come with that. And then boom, we're ready to launch, put product on shelves last year and the pandemic hits.
Right.
Well, if nothing else, you know, navigating the licensing application process has taught me to, you know, roll with the punches and punch back. So last year, that business was acquired. Doc House was acquired by Air Strategies. My second exit in the industry, my first equity play. So, you know, it was dope, and it lit a fire in me even more than I already thought I was on fire for this industry. But what it also reminds me of is every day is like, Shanita, you know how hard that was with your, you know, dope ass team, like you're well-heeled, you know, connected folks, people that have started businesses. Like, you know how hard it was for y'all. There's no way you can lend your voice to making this more accessible, to removing these barriers that are just, you know, in a lot of cases, you know, they're pointless. But they're not pointless if you're intending to, you know, prohibit the engagement of a particular people.
Right, absolutely. And it's like so clear that that's what is happening in a lot of ways. And I wonder what this year, as we're kind of like racing towards, I guess with the MORE Act, you know, I feel like that was really a big part of the conversation around like what might happen if legalization goes federal and who could get left behind. You know, there was a lot of conversations about things that they were saying about who could be, you know, I guess like, you know, felons and like, you know, like all those same kinds of conversations and like coded language that we really feel like is so clearly not a part of the equity conversation, you know? So how do we, like, what do we need to do about federal legalization to make sure that it's not just like the same song and dance?
You got to read, and read again. You talked about that policy being like, you know, you just read. No, that's what it is. You got to read and understand what every line of it means.
Everybody was cheering about the freaking MORE Act, by the way, on like Rolling Stone and like all these places that don't cover cannabis. You know, I was reading about, I'm like, why am I reading about the MORE Act in Vanity Fair? You know, like who did they reach out to?
Yeah, we got to get on the same page and speak the same language, you know, be clear about what we're asking for. You know, it's not cool to prohibit folks that have been criminally impacted, you know, criminally justice impacted from this industry. And we're not going to accept that in the name of, you know, getting legalization this year.
And pushing that kind of thing through. What else, like besides, well, I know, well, I'll let you. My sister has this little cat and she's trying to drink my chai, which is like really funny. Anyway, what kind of strategic, why we've seen you in the news lately, talk about these new strategic partnerships that you are taking on, like advisory roles. Like I've seen your name under things like the Board of Excellence and Samo, like, you know, give me the good stuff.
So that is the most recent kind of foray. Say it again.
Was it this week or last week that got
in? Last week, the Coalition for Cannabis Policy, Education, and Regulation launched. This coalition is made up of companies like Altria, Constellation Brands, and just go to the website and look for the full list. I don't want to misspeak, but please do. It's there for your education. But this group is, you know, years and years and years of regulatory experience at the state and federal level, experience navigating the intricacies of the balance between state and federal regulation, right? Some of these companies have invested in the cannabis industry, right? So what's important is that they are influential, experienced in regulatory frameworks. They have an interest in seeing this done right. What they're not doing is saying, hey, let me just go at this alone. and forget about, you know, these experts who study things like public health, public safety, youth prevention, drug driving. And so the Center of Excellence, which is the thing I'm most excited about,
Yes.
I'm a member of with folks that I have learned from and worked alongside and really looked up to in terms of just pure intellectual and awareness.
Yes.
Right? Because I don't care how much you know about health, science, policy, all that. If you can't talk to me about leveling and making this world more equitable, because we have a big opportunity with cannabis. It doesn't matter who I'm talking to about anything, because we can be talking about cannabis health, we can talk about policy, we can talk about improving humankind with it, right? So everybody is a stakeholder. This coalition, the reason I'm involved is because now we bringing everybody to the table.
Yes.
Now we're not leaving nobody out, you know, because equitable policy doesn't come from the types of policymakers and the forums that we're used to seeing.
Yes.
So everybody, you know, people that are watching this, cannabis industry, cannabis legalization movement, criminal justice reform folks that are, you know, paying attention to cannabis, please hit me up, because what I'm looking for are all the perspectives that need to be in the conversation to inform our federal lawmakers.
Yes, absolutely. That's so important. Like making everybody a stakeholder, you know, that to me is the kind of equity that I want to be a part of and that I want to see, you know, because it doesn't always mean that people belong to sort of one of these very like comfy, you know, categories, right? Yep. There's all kinds of people, like you said, that we can use the plant to make things better for humankind and on a health level and otherwise. So what's the forecast looking like for 2021? Like, are we like, what should we look forward to on an ancillary level too, right? So I'm someone who works in the industry, but I don't touch the plant. Ooh. Like, you know, I do all kinds of like things that involve the plant. Like, I don't know, we have to talk about it, but basically I'm contributing to this anthology, Shanita. Ooh. Girl, it's like, I was asked to submit a proposal, and because I'm a writer and I like work in music and cannabis, and I was like, okay, yeah, but I don't really have anything to say. But remember when we did that Clubhouse room, First Cousins?
Yep.
So it kind of built out from, I had been calling sort of my connection with music and cannabis, like the relationship between, you know, First Cousins. And so I'm contributing to this anthology that is, I'm writing, it's actually called First Cousins, the connection between music and cannabis in the hip hop industry. So I'm excited to talk rap shit, of course, right? Yeah. But I'm also excited because it's a part of this like anthology and movement to reduce stigma. And I feel like we are, and maybe this is my forecast for the rest of the year, and I'd love to know what you think about it, but I feel like we're returning to the conversations about stigma. You know, yep. we're returning. I think maybe it's relating to the fact that, you know, federal legalization is on the way, or that there's just more different kinds of stakeholders being included. And I feel like we're returning to the conversations about the way those of us who use cannabis, how we consume it, why we consume it, and the fact that even if you don't consume cannabis, you can also reduce stigma.
That's right.
Because we want to bring more people, like maybe you're, you know, a Filipino accountant. Like we want more of that kind of equity in these spaces, and making things more broad for, I think, more ancillary parts of the business. So what does that look like? And what are your thoughts on going forward in 2021 in that way?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I can't wait to like really, you know, connect offline and put some things on paper, because there's, you know, we just saw this week 3 cannabis events, you know, on the schedule. They're like, all right, don't book your travel just yet, but put this on your calendar. Yeah. So that return is happening. Mm-hmm. And in addition to that, there has been, I think, a more visibility and more conversation around the breaking down and getting rid of stigma, because this is becoming more and more mainstream. But I'm gonna caution folks, because it's like gaining steam mainstream in the same way that it always has, right? It was cool when the lady, remember the mom from Weeds back in the day?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Right? Okay, so now you got a series on Netflix, and it's talking about Massachusetts city. It's talking about host agreements. This is real live happening to people that we know struggling to get their business off the ground, but it's being like glamorized. And I'm using air quotes because it ain't my thing, but it's being glamorized. And I think that there is a responsibility to show diversity and to represent something other than, we're gonna talk about some rap shit because that's what we're into. But there's somebody else that's like, oh, let me get some smooth jazz. I'm on my R&B shit. There are just so many aspects. We're not a monolith. So I might go from listening to, Wiz or Method Man, oh my gosh, to wanting to wind down and listen to, Anita Baker.
Yes.
Or getting into some, I might even get into some Kenny G. Listen, or some Najee. Like I'll go there.
You said Najee, which is funny because you're just East Coast forever because only real ones really know about Najee.
I was raised right.
Yes, 100%. Yes. I know. I feel that absolutely, and showing that diversity, across the board. And I think women in the industry, like you, like Chanel Lindsay, all praise. I love Chanel. She actually sent me one of those huge decarb machines. And I'm like, girl, we're about to be making cookies, all kind of things.
Upgrade your life.
Listen, yes, she's amazing. So, and like Chanel and Reese B from the Bay, and Lanice from, the Hood Incubator, and Amber Center from Supernova Women, Nina, our girl Nina Parks. I feel just been out here, really just killing it. And I'm curious if you think that there will be more leaders like that emerging. And what if someone who sees this at some point, and they've heard this conversation, but maybe they're not as like fully speaking the language or like whatever, what are some advice, and then also what are some of the best resources for people to like learn from and to see and have that exposure?
One of the first things, and you just said it, is speak the language, right? You have your thing and you can always, leverage that, but understand fundamentally what this is, what we're talking about, and where what your lane is. Because for a lot of us, we're multitasking. And what you can do in that is gain exposure that way, but then you got to lock in and you got to get serious about it. So I tell people to get in where you fit in. If you got a skill or a talent, bring it to this industry and support this industry. I absolutely see us continuing to rise to the top, and not in a token, let me check this box, let me put this person out here, or let me make this the diversity person. No.
I'm so sick.
Right. And the reality is that we're talented in these ways that if you are open-minded and looking in diverse places to source your vendors, your employees, whatever, your investors, then it happens, right? But get involved. Like, people wait for some ideal scenario. It doesn't come without you doing and putting in some work. So and most importantly, do not allow yourself to be used. Know your worth, add tax. In this industry, a lot of times you get in on the ground floor, and you should absolutely reap the benefits in the future, whether that's this company growing or this company growing and being acquired, but you should be compensated. And these places shouldn't be, emotionally draining and taxing on our spirit. Yes. So we have to go into places that are celebrating us, not tolerating us, and just remember
not tolerate. Yes.
And remember that, this isn't an exclusive club of being, the one Black girl or the Black guy, the Black person. It's we have to, y'all, really get together and start showing up again with our messaging in terms of policy ask. Work together in business so that we can experience the efficiencies that some other groups experience as they're building and growing. And then we gotta be smart. We gotta be smart. Know what you're talking about, because a lot of people, people have platforms. People talk about everything.
Please do the reading. Like, people need to do the reading, and like And I say do the reading because, you know, I came into the industry as a consumer and as someone who's like,
Yeah.
yo, like we do shows, like people like to smoke weed at the concerts. So that's why it makes sense for me to connect. And there was a ton of you know, runway that I had to give myself so that I could learn what I was talking about and like and
Oh
listen,
yeah.
you know, and like Jasmine Aguiar, also our both of our mutual friend, you know, was a really big part of being like, listen, this is about to be what's happening. We all need to know about it because we need to come get our piece. So
Yeah.
you definitely, I encourage everyone to do the reading and to follow people who are speaking your language. So where can we, and we'll put this all in the final video in the comments and stuff so everyone can
Okay.
see it, but where should we find you on the internet? Also, you were just on Revolt as well.
Oh yeah, that's my thing too. I really thought, you know, this was gonna be a year of just low key hang out, and then when everything jumps back out, I'll get back out there. No, I am out here.
You're
in front-
outside.
I'm outside, and you know, it's crazy because when I think about the forecast, I really want to be working with you on, you know, what it is that these live events look like, these experiences, because I have now afforded myself some flexibility, right, in the types of projects that I work on, who I'm working with, and what I want now is, I've been a consumer so long, just taking whatever's out here, and now we get to create, we get to influence, and we're going to own. We are going to
own
own
that. We are going to own that. Our intellectual property is going to be wide and vast and expansive. And I feel very strong in saying that and in that prediction. And I feel like with the knowledge we bring, the energy that we bring, it's well deserved. And I personally am also excited about working with you and about building these conversations and making them, you know, bigger and better. So anything else? Is there, as we're sort of winding down our time, is there anything else that you feel like is imperative that we say?
I feel like I have to give you an update because I put this bug in your ear a little while ago. I planted this little seed.
Okay.
You know, I came into this a long time, you know, lifetime consumer, but also, you know, being involved, having a cannabis arrest that I had to, you know, get expunged, do all those things just to live my life. It wasn't even about getting into the industry.
Yeah.
So I thought about all these things, and I'm telling these stories, I'm talking to people, I'm on everybody's platform. And I'm like, whoo, I'm talking a lot. So I've been working on a book.
Yes. Yes.
The brand is happening.
So it's so strong. Bring some weed.
Wait. Which inspired by Biggie. So y'all just saw the Biggie documentary. I got a story to tell. I think about, you know, how I hit my friends up. Bring some weed. I gotta tell you something. Bring some weed. We gotta knock this work out. Bring some weed. We just going to chill. Like, that's my life. And so Ben, I'm gonna definitely give you all the information you need. Thank you.
I'll have the links.
But seriously, I didn't realize how filling, you know, it would be to share my story and to connect with so many people who have experienced like just life maybe in a different place, maybe in a different way. But it's really allowed me to build in this industry. Like, I know dope people. Like, this is a whole like thing. And if we needed to be buttoned up and, you know, 1 2 1 2, we could have done that. What's dope is that we get to be our true selves, and people get our best when we operate like this. Yo, this is an announcement, so that's exclusive.
Okay,
so
perfect.
On the book, yes.
I'm so excited. I love that. When can we expect it?
Working on the book later this year.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, I'm approaching my 40th year of life. So yes, I'm doing all the things. So there will be merch. I'm going to, you know, engage. And you were talking about live events. Bring Some Weed is going to be an event.
We can do that. We go on tour. No, we're 100% going on tour. 100%, we're taking it on tour. We're taking it on
tour. I'm so excited because now we got to have a whole call after this.
No, 100%. I'm joining the team. We're taking it on tour. I'm charting the tour. Don't worry. We will do readings and smokings. Yeah. I love it. Yo, listen, I'm always cheering you on. I'm always supporting you, always here with you.
And same. I'm so excited about our future.
Me too. I feel positive about it. I feel, excited about it in ways that are, last year was difficult, but I
Yes.
feel like there was some resiliency that we have always had that we just activated. And those of us who are rising to the top, it was meant to be no matter what. So
Sure.
we're still here. As always, thank you so much, Shanita, for everything, for your time. For people who are going to see this, we'll have all of Shanita's website and Instagram and all the good things in the comments, and we will be good to go. So thank you guys so much, and thank you so much, Shanita.
Thank you.